This was our second last day of paddling, and we were keen to get to Clarke Island before the weather changed.
Getting close to the shore, there should be a little bit more friction against the rocks.
There had been a few rumblings of thunder as we packed up in light rain, but these had moved away by the time we hit the water at 6:45. It turned out to be another beautiful morning. Mount Strait was visible again behind a low section of Cape Barren Island. We found it hard work reaching Preservation Island against an opposing current, but easy once we got around the point. And we stopped for smoko at an old stockyard loading ramp towards the southern end of the island. The perfect conditions continued as we paddled on towards Spike Cove on Clarke Island. In Spike Cove, we inspected a very nice little beach that we have spotted on Google Earth. It reminded us both of Waterfall Beach at Two People's Bay. This is just outside Spike Cove, and I'm pretty sure that is Spike Island in the background. During breaks, I was now getting quite good at lying right back on the rear deck of my kayak, lifting my bum right out of the seat, taking the pressure off aching sit bones. As a bonus, this also gave a nice view of the sky. 4 kilometres on from Spike Cove, we paddled into the western end of Rebecca Bay. And yes, that little snick was me scraping over a rock. The beach was quite steep and landing was a bit awkward, or at least I made it that way. It was one of those beaches where your bow has landed, the stern is still floating and the sand is too loose to knuckle your way up. Andrew went back out for a second approach. The first thing I did in Rebecca Bay was have a little sit down on the sand. An accidental selfie taken while checking the GoPro shows me starting to look a bit scruffy. This is our GPS track for the day. About here, paddling past Sunder and Lightning Bay, is where Andrew noticed the GPS saying that we were only making about 3.5 kilometres per hour. That is why our track deviates to the west, trying to get out of the main channel between Cape Barren and Preservation. Our drift, when we stopped paddling, confirms that the current in the channel was flowing at about 2 kilometres per hour. This is our smoko stop, and then the beautiful little Spike Cove beach. Landing at Rebecca Bay just after 1:30. So this was our little corner of Clarke Island. We originally camped in this little blowout clearing in the sandhills, but found that way too windy and moved back down to the beach. Up to the sandhills to this track. We found if we followed that along to the hill near the point, we could get fairly good mobile phone reception. The walk to the hill was only about 400 metres, but I remember it as being longer. This is a fly through to my favourite, slightly sheltered spot between the rocks. We found Clarke Island to be a bit of a windy place, or as Billy Connolly might say, fucking wind! This is from our first morning on Clarke Island, inside my tent at our campsite in the dunes. Soon after this, I got a call for help from Andrew. One of his tent poles had snapped. We had to move back down to the beach where we could get a bit more shelter. Mind you, there was still a little bit of wind on the beach. Over the next few days, Bank Strait often looked rather frightening. Much more cheerful when the sun was out, but still very windy and riddled with whitecaps. Tasmania, with all its windmills, was taunting us across the strait. All we could do was huddle in or close to our tents and wait. We had arrived on Tuesday afternoon, just ahead of the change, and it wasn't until Saturday afternoon that the wind really started to die down. We want to show off our table. Driftwood retaining walls.
That was very good. Great move.
Without the wind noise, our campsite looks almost idyllic, but we found little to do on Clarke Island. Following the telephone hill track in the opposite direction led nowhere interesting. There were very few birds and no obvious signs of animal life. The weather forecast for Sunday was good, and we were both very anxious for it to hold so that we could say goodbye to Rebecca Bay.